Hello and welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with amazing individuals from all around the world and look for ways to create a clean, green and sustainable planet for everyone, for you, for me, for the animals. I'm your host, Tom Simak, a fellow plant eater and athlete that strives to optimize every living ecosystem. Passionate about looking after this beautiful floating rock we call home and all the lovely creatures that dwell among it. Just a reminder that the plantparadigm.com website is live. It is your host for all things regarding this podcast. So the two main channels we are active on is the website and the Instagram. So the website will lay host to every single episode that we have previously published, including the travel guide. And now open is the blog section, where obviously with the Instagram post that I put up, the carousels, they're limited to the amount of information I can put in one slide. So I'm going to take all that information, combine multiple carousels regarding the same topic, and even expand further, including all the science, diagrams, pictures, all the good things in one big post. Currently, we've got a few up there, including one of the topics we're really passionate about, which is plastic and its effect on our health as humans. And while you're on the website, you can sign up to our monthly newsletter. We call it the Monthly Paradigm, much like our monthly show, where you'll get the lowdown on everything we talk about in the month and more. Just head over to the website and put in your name and email address, and once a month you will get some information about plant news, what we've been up to with the show, and anything you need to know about the environment and what's happening with it. Today we are speaking with Josie Clemens, an activist turned chef. Josie was the first ever vegan on Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, season 20. Since then, she has been cooking up a storm and been around the world spreading the message that plants and peace start on your plate. So today we are going to dive into a whole host of topic, mainly surrounding food. Of course, being that she's a chef, we want to dive into how we can cater for the majority of the population that aren't vegan. Let's be honest, people like the taste of meat. You at one stage might have really loved the taste of meat and chosen that to be your path. But there is a reason that meat tastes good. It's flavoring, it's texture, it's your mindset around everything. And so if we can dive into that, dissect it, and learn how to recreate those dishes using plants, we can make environmental sustainability via the food we consume an easy choice to make. And that's what Josie's out there doing. She is creating amazing dishes using only plants and showing that plants are cool. So we'll be talking about different tips in the kitchen, how to make what you cook taste good, her experience on the show, being a vegan without too many spoiler alerts. As you can imagine, it's a cooking show, and she had to cook animal products and do other things that a vegan might not ever want to do. So we'll talk about her experience doing that, her relationship with the vegan community because of that. Did she cop slack? Was she rewarded mentally and socially for the fact that she was a vegan that was doing these things that other vegans wouldn't be doing? We also talk about the future of food, a bit on cellular agriculture and what we can do to transform the food industry. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. I definitely did. But without further ado, I will see you on the other side. Josie, welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast. How are you going?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing a great, thanks. You've got that little morning wave with your English breakfast going on, with apparently the secret is almond milk.
It is. And 2 spoons of sugar in each cup. And usually one pot is about 3 cups. So 6 spoons of sugar to start your day. It's
So we're
it'll
not
do.
condoning this. You're just a crazy woman, that's all.
Exactly. I've gone to England and I've lost my mind.
Yeah, as you do. It's kind of normal. How
There's
were
no
you?
sun here.
Oh well, yeah.
That's what causes it.
What have you been cooking up lately? What's on the chef's table?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've been making my new signature dish at every restaurant that I've been popping up at. So that's like a glazed aubergine that's been seared and then glazed like two times over with shoyu, sake, mirin, and brown sugar. And then a golden palm puree. And that is potatoes simmered in coconut milk with ginger and lemon and salt. Yeah, it's really nice.
You know what's so funny? Like as I'm listening to that, I'm hearing it and it sounds delicious. I don't know half the words you're using. I'm just not understanding. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you look at the average person and we make a curry, it's got vegetables, coconut milk, some curry paste, and that's pretty much it. And maybe tofu. And what you're describing is some sort of almost like a science experiment. Have you like where is that the transition between being a home cook to then taking that professionally? Is it like really being very specific with what you do with food?
Oh, that is such a technical question. And I think that a better chef could probably answer that. I think the answer like is yes. But I will say that I think for me, the biggest difference is you just stop following recipes and you just start saying, like, oh, what would happen if I do that? Because when you said science experiment, that's me to a T. Like, I'm into food chemistry. So I look at food as like science. And then I'm like, well, and then you go through the whole process. You create a hypothesis. You're like, what would happen? I think this would happen. And then you go to the store and then you buy a bunch of shit and then you lose your mind in the kitchen for an hour and then see what happens.
So, do your process of creating recipes, like this new recipe that you've created and you're doing as pop-ups, was that created through a series of trial and errors?
Actually, no. This was like, I think this would taste really good. And then I made it for my boyfriend at the time. So it was made with love. It's made with a lot of love. And then it
Okay.
was just like really good. And then I did tweak it like here and there to adjust like the flavors, but I cooked that for him every day. He requested it every day. He's
Oh
like,
my
I want you
God.
to make eggplant. I call it aubergine because that's what they call it over here. But in America, we call it eggplant. So
I didn't know what you were. Okay, aubergine, eggplant. Got it. Yep. So do you think there's actually like something to making food with love? Like, does it amend the taste or the experience?
oh my God, yeah, are you fucking kidding? Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah, it totally does because I think you stop using your mind so much and you stop focusing on the technicalities and then you're just like feeling it and you're feeling it and you're feeling it into fruition. It's like a whole on birth.
A full birth, a kitchen birth. Um, like I've got to admit, you were like you've made me and my partner start watching Hell's Kitchen, and I'd never touched a show like that. I didn't really know what to expect, and I kind of know Gordon Ramsay as this very anxious figure, and so I thought, oh, with a vegan, I don't know. I've heard him give so much crap to vegans and vegetarians. I'm like, what do you mean a vegan's going to be on that show? And you were the first vegan to be on Hell's Kitchen, which was season 20, which, I mean, thank goodness it's not currently fully aired yet. So we shouldn't give any spoilers to what's currently going on. So people can go and watch that if they do so wish. Like, what am I right in saying it was filmed 2 years ago?
Yes, 2019,
So,
May 13th was our film date.
I mean, if someone doesn't want any spoilers at all, just skip like 5 minutes ahead or so. What was it like being maybe I'll say the only vegan in that kind of a situation in which you have this figure who's predominantly going to be really judgy for your food, especially?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you get anxiety when you were watching Hell's Kitchen?
Very, yeah. I'm gonna say not on edge. On edge is what I'll say.
Okay, and you're the viewer. Yeah, dude. It was really stressful because nobody if nobody around you is vegan, no one can empathize with you, what you're feeling when you're cooking meat and you're feeling like that level of like, holy shit, should I even be here? Should I even be doing this? Nobody, nobody's there to empathize with you because that's celebrated because they're chefs. It's celebrated that you're
Mm.
producing great meat products and that you're cooking your meat perfectly and like you're able to like work with all of these premium cuts because you're in Gordon Ramsay's kitchen. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm over here like, oh my God, I don't want to touch this. Like, but so it's like a whole internal warfare on top of the fact that you do want to win, you do want to stay there for a long period of time because you are a chef. Me, you say me, I am a chef and I want to stay there. I want to win. So it's like is internal battle that had to be sorted every day, every minute.
Did you have experience prior to this? Because did you become a professional chef while you were a vegan or before? Like, had you cooked professionally, like animal products in a professional environment prior to this?
Yeah, yeah. When I was 16, I started cooking and I was definitely like a carnist. Like
I can't. Yeah.
I was like very into like
Yeah.
taking apart animals.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
very not
Yeah,
vegan.
a lot of people aren't born vegan, so that's fine, and there's absolutely no judgment here around that. So, how does it feel? Like was it an emotional warfare to then cook every day that meat product, but also now that you're cooking plants predominantly, I guess where I want to take this question is, what was that transition like for you, having now been cooking plants? Are you almost like relieved that you don't have to be engaged in creating animal products or dishes?
Oh my gosh, so much so. Yeah, because I was cooking non-vegan before, and then when I went vegan, I stopped cooking because I didn't know how to relate to the culinary world anymore because I felt like if I couldn't cook meat, then I was never going to be like in the eyes of other people a good chef. But I didn't know of other vegan chefs. I didn't know I wasn't connected to the vegan world. I just went
Mm,
vegan. And yeah, so after Hell's Kitchen, I felt like this desire to really tap in and hone my skills as a plant-based chef. So yeah, it feels amazing to know that I can like be fully connected to what I'm doing and putting on the plate because during Hell's Kitchen, I just kind of had to like dissociate a little bit because if
mm,
you try to put your heart into it, it's like there's like you'll basically just cry. You'll just start crying because you're
yeah.
like, oh shit, you know. So yeah, I
I
hope
mean,
that
I
answers.
can imagine there's a lot of pain going on because one scene, it blew my mind, and it doesn't spoil the show for anyone. It's just one of the activities you guys had to do was actually to catch a live squid and to cut it. And what's going through my mind is like how like I can't even formulate a question. Your facial expression is pretty much the answer I'm after. But how do you kind of move on from that as someone who's emotionally connected to that animal, having to do something like that and then really disassociate? Like, what emotions were going through your mind?
Oh my God, that was on day, I think that was day two. Like day, I don't remember how they cut it into the episode, but you arrive and then that I think that was like the next morning. It's like you wake up and that was the challenge. And you're like, they wake you up stupid early.
What, like 5
So
a.m.?
yeah, you're still like coming into your body when you're on the stand. And they have you on the stand and Gordon Ramsay's like, good morning, chefs. It's like, you're still kind of sleepy and you're like, all right, I got to get in the zone. I got to get in the zone. And then when they announced that that was the challenge, I straight up thought I was just going to like raise my hand and be like, hey, I'm out. But then I was like, no, like I came all this way. I can't just like, I already knew this was what I mentally prepared for. This is what I signed up for. They asked me if I'm okay with cooking meat. I said yes. So I better just do it, and I better do it like the best that I can do it. And I swear, like something in me switched in that moment. I was just like, I have to let go of duality and what right and wrong is. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to compete here.
I mean, what do you think the response from the vegan community was to you doing that and cooking meat? Because you mentioned you weren't really an avid member, but surely, vegans, like much like any human, we like to have opinions. Have you gotten any messages or comments around, your participation in any of that?
Yeah, actually, it's been really supportive. It's been nothing but positivity. And that was a big concern. I was like, what if they end up hating me? What if I do this all for nothing? But no, everyone has been really sweet to me. I did get one vegan lady who was like, you did vegans. Like, she just went into like full on like Hell's Kitchen fanatic mode where like people think that they like people become Gordon Ramsay and then they want to like rip you apart. and, so, and she's like, "You did vegans a disservice. You're a terrible chef." And I was like, "Thank you." I don't care about those comments though
Yeah.
because I think I've received 7 negative comments slash messages and like probably 1,000 comments and messages of just like radical support, like long messages. It's been so nice.
Well, I mean, what's so fascinating is that, doing my usual stalk before the interview, I was looking at the comment section on your Instagram, and there's people who are literally trying plant based because of them seeing you on the show and saying, wait, what? There's vegans, and for some people, I think it would be the first exposure to actually a real life vegan, especially if you look at very rural places. That's really awesome that
Totally.
this was almost a form of activism, which is a weird way to look at it.
I think that is like a key point. Underline, highlight. I think that vegans need to be in the non-vegan world because I think it's the only way to actually build a bridge to veganism because if there's this wall, if there's this divide of like vegans saying, I'm not going to do any of this, I'm not going to participate, I'm not going to be a part of the world, I'm going to shame the structure, I'm going to shame the system, I'm going to shame what currently exists because I see what the right way of being is now. We're never going to get the masses to come over. We have to be a part of that system. We have to be a part of the non-vegan world and we have to still be the light and be as compassionate as we would be to animals. We have to be that level of um I guess like we have to be that endearing and that loving to other human beings and give them the love that they've never received and then bring them
Yeah.
on over.
Win them with love. I love that perspective because if
Yeah.
you are a vegan, or let's say just an environmentalist or a climate activist, whatever your label that you associate yourself with, if you have this knowledge, say, oh, eating plants in your mind is like this will reduce the eco impact, it will reduce your footprint, it'll do the animal service, it'll do whatever your reasoning is. And if you, because of whatever reason, only stick to people that support that belief, you are then removing yourself from the outside world, which you need to be there to have that conversation. Because if you weren't there, nothing would
Yes.
change. If you're just talking about climate to climate activists, yes, it's a great brainstorming activity for different solutions, but you need to be able to have that conversation with the wider public so that everyone can chip in and do their little part to, I guess, push for a better future.
Yes. 1,000%. A
Things.
1,000%. Because otherwise you're just like in the room and like you're talking to the vegans and you're like, yeah, great job. We love what you're saying. And it feels good because you're like being
Yeah, yeah.
like positively affirmed and reinforced in what
Mm.
you're doing, but it's like no change is occurring whatsoever.
Totally. Which both things are important and you need that validation and that
Yeah,
support,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
being out there in the world is super important. What was something about the show or your experience that really took you by surprise or a lesson that you didn't think you would learn?
I learned a lot. I learned a lot of lessons about how to cook different types of meat. And I think in turn, it showed me the importance of learning or of, I guess, just cooking vegetables the same way that we cook meat and, using these techniques that, understanding that these techniques can translate and just requires like one or two more steps of creativity. So, I also learned a lot about organization, which I was not expecting to learn at all. But Chef Christina, love her, going to meet up with her soon when she gets to England, and we're going to eat a lot of food, and I'm really excited. That's a sidebar. She taught me like what it means. Like when you're on your station, you don't have anything on your station that you're not going to use, and you just like hyper organize it. You basically play the night through your head and exactly how you're going to do everything, and then manage your utensils, your pots, your pans, everything that you're going to need. It's just there and it's in its perfect place and it does not leave its perfect place. And that has transformed me as a chef. I put out enchiladas, homemade enchiladas for 65 people in the middle of a desert all by myself. And I would never have been able to do that had she not taught me these like very strict organization skills. So shout out to her.
Is it the efficiency of knowing where everything is, or is it just you don't have to get through clutter to kind of be the best version or best chef that you can be?
All of the above. It takes away so many mental blocks because when you get into that high stress place, if your kitchen was a mess, you're through. Then all of a sudden you're like using your anxiety like to like clean your station and like figure something out.
Well, let's backtrack to when you were talking about how you cooked meat that translates to vegetables, because that shook me a little bit. So I get in concepts of like you can char grill like an eggplant, you can char grill a zucchini, and these different techniques. What else and what other techniques did you learn that can translate? Because some people who listen to this show aren't vegan or vegetarian and they're still cooking meat and still eating meat. So I find it interesting that you don't have to relearn everything. What you know now and how you cook your food now, you can adapt that and just change what you're cooking with and the ingredients that you use.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, using like, especially because now we have like vegan butter, we have all of the replacement products. It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. So it's so much easier to be vegan now because we have the vegan butter, we have like different marinades, we have access to literally everything that we need in order to treat vegetables like we treat meat.
So when you're like cooking, let's say you go to cook something like I'm sorry for the euphemism, but beef. Do you usually go for an alternative meat like a Beyond Burger or something like that, or do you generally go for a vegetable and then spice it and cook it in a way that is, I guess, similar? And it doesn't have to be beef as the example, but some other animal product that you think are suitable alternatives.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm not a big fan of the faux meat of any brand. Like I used to live off of that shit for like the first 2 years being vegan, but no, I'm more keen on like using mushrooms and it doesn't work for my gluten-free people, so I'm sorry, but I love making seitan and like something that I served recently was jackfruit ribs. So, you can take jackfruit and you can season it like meat really heavily and then add your gluten and season the gluten. And then you create like this meaty loaf and sauce it, bake it, and sauce it again. I mean, it's just like having a beef tenderloin or a pork tenderloin or a rack of ribs.
I mean, what are the
So it's really nice.
spices that people have to look at? Like, if you don't want to give up meat, if someone doesn't want to give up meat because of the taste concept, we know that this taste is very much from plants. The texture is something else, but what are the spices that you would use to try to replicate the flavor?
Mm. Well, onion and garlic, I think that the only reason that people are addicted to the taste of meat is because of onion and garlic. Because if you just like took a piece of meat and you threw it in a pan with some hot oil and some salt, I mean, if it's a really nice cut of meat, like, yeah, it might be really good. But I I find that onion and garlic is like truly like what we're addicted to. So I don't even cook with onion and garlic. But if you want it to taste like meat and you want to appeal to meat eaters in that way, yeah, use onion and garlic. But the other things that I use are cumin. I make a garam masala blend, which is basically like something that you would have next to like a curry powder. Um, and I like to use, yeah, I like to use like dried chilies too, like Mexican chilies that are dried. You could use any dried chili.
Well,
So I think that, and brown sugar too. Oh my God, brown sugar and salt
really, that
on
is
vegetables.
so new to me. Brown sugar on veggies?
Dude, yeah. Yeah. Can I get nerdy for a second?
Go for it, please.
So vegetables are mainly starch, but when you heat them, the starches convert to sugar. So if you add just like a little bit of sugar to your seasoning blends, it promotes the natural sweet flavor that vegetables have when you cook them. So it just kind of enhances it. And then if you salt it, it also enhances the natural flavor that is in, like let's say you have beta carotene in a carrot that's orange. But that beta carotene is what carries the flavor of the carrot. So then the salt enhances that, and then the sugar enhances the natural sugar that's in the vegetable. So, and that's why people love MSG because MSG is essentially like giving you that salty and sugary flavor. So it's really addictive. But so just using natural sugar and sea salt is much healthier. So life hack.
How much like sugar are you using? This is blowing my mind right now. Is it like one, like I don't want to douse, I don't want to have a sugar syrup bowl. I want to, still have the veggies. How much are you
Of course.
using?
Oh, just a little. So like let's say that you have your pan and it's has one nice coating of vegetables in the bottom. It's not stacked because we don't do that because we don't do that.
Why is it that we don't
But
do that?
because then it over steams. And you
Okay,
want if you're trying to get a sear on your vegetables, you don't stack them. You keep it kind of you have some space, some airflow in the pan so the
cool.
steam isn't hitting all the other veggies. But yeah, just like a light sprinkling of sugar and then taste one and then, just do it to taste. You just need a light sprinkle.
This is amazing. I can't wait to try and let you know how I go. Um,
Oh my gosh.
Before we move on, with Hell's Kitchen, obviously, for those who don't know, it's Gordon Ramsay's show in Vegas. You're obviously very obsessed with Gordon Ramsay. Let's not, sugarcoat that. Um, you're, I'm assuming at this stage, following him on social media and stuff. And I've noticed over the past 6 months to a year, he's making a lot of vegan recipes. Some recent ones I've seen is like a vegan BLT. I've seen him make the vegan bacon. How can we make him go vegan, Josie?
Can I tell you a secret?
Tell me a
I
secret.
have a secret. Okay. Um, so my master plan right now is literally just to build my brand as big and as wide as I possibly can and to get as much as experience as I can because I just want to be a sub brand of Gordon Ramsay's brand. Like that is my entire career goal at this point is to be vegan, like to be known as vegan chef Josie, but then for vegan chef Josie to be like a part of Gordon. I don't think the man's going to go vegan. I would never ask him to go vegan, but what I do know about him is that he's a very intelligent businessman and he's also very like he's not keen to like eat so much meat all the time because he's really into health and I think one of his daughters is vegetarian and he does a lot of biking and exercising. So he's not eating like probably all meat all the time. I can't say that I know that for certain, but I think that, yeah, to secure his brand. Because the reason that I love him, I mean, 12.7 million people love him the same way that I love him. And I would just want to protect his brand for the next decade and bring vegan menus into his restaurants where people have a wide variety of options to choose a vegan plate rather than a meat plate. So that is that's my biggest goal right now.
Yeah. Well, That sounds great because you're right. I probably don't see the man going vegan, but vegan options is something else. And I think he is quite health focused. And if he just him consuming some vegan products and showing that on social media really does our work really well. Like the amount of people that would eat plants from one post from this guy is absolutely mind boggling. But you're obviously quite a spiritual person as well, based on my stalking and our conversation. So I want to know your take on how food affects us in more than just nutrients. What do you think on that whole concept?
Well, I think that when we eat meat, we're definitely consuming the energy stored in the animal's body. And if we really think to how animals are treated um, before they die, we can probably assume that it's not great, that they're probably terrified, that they're probably scared and anxious. And it's quite interesting to me when we look around and mental health is such a big topic that's being discussed at least over the last decade now more than ever, where people are actually considering mental health. But it's like we're not we're not quite there yet when we're looking at the DNA of what we're consuming and how it's affecting our DNA. And we're not considering it on an energetic level yet. But I think that when we do, we'll find that most of our emotions and most of our fatigue and most of our unease, our dis-ease in our minds, it's not even ours. It's from what we're consuming. And it's from what is being perpetuated because everyone's consuming it in the masses. Everyone's consuming this meat, this anxiety, this fear, this death frequency. It's in their bodies and they're just acting it out in the physical world and their day-to-day behavior and their speech. And we pick it up and we absorb it. So it's just like this perpetuating loop. And that's what we experience. That's what we have grown to accept. And so we don't see that there's like a problem with it yet. But I think we're going to. I think it's going to happen really soon where we're more conscious of the energies of the foods that we're eating. Because if you look at plants have already like achieved their highest consciousness. When it's spring, they grow. When it's summer, they thrive. When it's fall, they know when to start to wilt. When it's winter, they allow themselves to die off. Their willingness to just go through the motions is impeccable. Our willingness to change and grow,
Another question. Yeah.
not not great. And people always say, dude, okay, can I just rant for a second?
Go
People
for it.
people are like, yeah, but plants are living things too.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
We've
like,
debunked
yeah.
that many times.
Oh my
Well,
God.
no,
I
to be
can't,
fair, they
dude.
are living things. They just, they lack a central nervous system. That's,
Yeah, and they don't have eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and a sense of touch to the point where they can also perpetuate pain. They
mm.
can't perpetuate pain, so then we can't perceive pain. So then like that's the only anyways. Anyways.
That was a short rant. I was expecting to give you 5 minutes.
Were you? Because I don't know.
Well,
There would be lots of F-bombs. I get really pissed when people say that. They're like, yeah, but plants give off this
pheromone
what
or
is it? It's like
something.
what
Yeah.
yeah, they excrete this thing when you're about to clip it. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, plants can feel and plants can sense, fine, but they can't perpetuate pain for us to perceive to then go out and perpetuate more pain. I'm sorry. It's not the same.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. And I find the spirituality concept of food very interesting. It's something that we don't dive into a lot on this show because it's generally more scientific based. But I think there is something to it because when we're looking at food, we know it has a direct impact on our hormones. We know it has a direct impact on our longevity, the way our cells communicate with each other, the way that they duplicate, homeostasis, everything is interconnected. And so it's more than when you consume a food. It affects you emotionally, spiritually, physically as well. So I think it's important to have that connection with your food. And even if you're not a spiritual person, I think what's really important and what you touched on is when you know where that food is coming from and you have that connection, I think it automatically gives you some level of gratitude towards where it came from.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think that is, I think you just explained the magic behind farmers markets. When you go out and pick your local produce while you're just like, oh my God, these vegetables are so cute. It's like because you just met the
Cute.
farmer
Yep.
who grew them.
Yeah, we've been loving farmers markets, and I've actually really gotten into buying them from farmers market, washing them now as well. Like I never used to wash fruit and vegetable. I'm not sure on your take on that, but I feel like they're so bright, and it when you want to eat something that is, I mean, you got to take it back to what we're designed to eat. And I think when something physically looks appealing, like bright colors, and you look at that and you start salivating, I think just on the most basic essential part of life, like that is what you should be eating. If you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm not hungry, but I'm drawn to that, I think that's a sign. Like that is, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I could not agree more. I call him Chinese dad. He's like 55 and he really does treat me like his daughter. He lives back in Los Angeles and I'd get together with him once a week for dinner and he would always do this thing to like he'd always have guests over and he'd be hosting and not all of them were vegan, but he has like a vegan household and he would say, "All right, close your eyes and now picture yourself or picture your favorite fruit and then picture yourself slicing your favorite fruit and the juice running out of it and like everybody's like you can see like their mouths start to move like that." He said, "Now picture an animal and you slicing through it." And they're like, "Oh God, yeah." It's like, yeah, that's how you know what you're innately designed to eat. And I was just
What a
like,
way to
damn,
ruin the
that's so
mood.
sad.
That's so savage.
So savage.
I mean, that raises, your Chinese dad, it raises another point. When you're are meant to serve food to someone who's non-vegan, do you have a particular dish that you really go towards? Like, is it the dish that you're currently cooking? Was it the seitan dish that was ribs and that kind of, or was it jackfruit? What is the thing you're cooking up for a non-vegan?
It is that dish. It's the jackfruit seitan because it's mostly jackfruit with just enough seitan to kind of hold it together into like what would look like pork ribs and then heavily spiced, like heavily seasoned, and then a really nice barbecue sauce that's been smoked to go with it. It's really good. And then it has like crispiness, it has chewiness, it has just like all the textures that you would want in your meat. It's just translated into this. So I found like I've had really, really great reviews come back from vegans and non-vegans alike. I had some non-vegans tell me like, yeah, I can tell it's not meat, but it's just as satisfying as meat. And then you also don't feel like so bloated or just like tired or groggy after eating it. Because I served like I did like a nice side of sauce with I did a like a golden beet puree next to it and then like a giant pile of this jackfruit seitan, like a bunch of slices with then like a messy amount of jackfruit on the side. And they were like, yeah, I ate it all and I could like definitely eat more. And it's like, yes, this is the benefit of eating vegan food is you can just eat all day and not feel like a pile of shit.
That's right. I mean, before you touched on the cellular agriculture type of thing, or you touched on like the Beyond Meat, which is like your fake meats, and in the near future, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 years, we're going to have cellular meat hit the market, which you've heard of cellular meat?
Yeah, is that when they're like growing meat from
Correct.
like a few cells
Yeah,
of
so it's grown in a
animals?
petri dish from cell of an animal, so no animals are harmed. So we're going to have this product that is essentially identical to meat. it's cooked the same way, it tastes the same, but no ecological impact. In your opinion, knowing chefs that are vegan and non-vegan, how do you think cellular meat will hit menus? Like, do you think there's a real chance that if they are identical, that this could really impact a restaurant's menu, I guess?
I mean, I hope so. If we could convert, if we could just switch from mass manufacturing meat to having just this meat in restaurants, I don't know how long that would take to scale, honestly. But I'm pretty excited about that. I would never eat it, to be honest with you. I shouldn't say never. I would try it. I'd probably try everything, but that's just, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Are you gonna eat it?
You know what? I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, would I eat it? Because essentially, it is an animal product, just without the actual murder of the animal. I thought I would potentially try it, but I don't think I would go down that road. Because you look at what you're doing now, and it's like, for me, it's maybe 90% whole food with some things on the side. I'm not really eating like those fake meats anyway, so why go out of my way to do it? So I think I probably won't, but I think it's an incredible opportunity for people like Gordon Ramsay and people who might not ever go vegan, hey, have this identical product. So I probably won't. And I think there's something to do with the energy of the foods. You know, we're really still creating something that is quite fatty, quite high in potentially cholesterol, although I'm sure they could take it out. And it's something that's not a beautiful fruit, vegetable, nut, legume, bean, grain. It's you're
Yeah.
removing the opportunity to eat something even better. And so that's where I kind of sit with it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more in the whole foods, plant-based track as well with you. I will, man, it's so interesting because it makes me think, like, are we still just going to be mutating our genes with this genetically modified food?
Don't
I don't
know.
know.
Don't know. It might have
I
to
don't
be up to
know.
them to decide, the scientists. I look, I'm sure it'd be fine. And if anything, it's going to be better for us than what people are currently consuming, because realistically, they can actually remove the cholesterol from the animal, and think they can reduce the saturated fat, add more unsaturated fats, as long as it doesn't change the taste and the texture, which is what people want. So I think there's an opportunity.
Okay. Well, that's true. That's true. And I think personally, I think the best way to try something and see how it feels is to like be fasted for a day and then try it and then see how it sits. I don't know. I feel like I'd have to go into like full on experiment mode in order to trust it.
Yeah,
But yeah, as long as people are serving that rather than actual meat,
happy
cool.
days.
Cool.
Well, what do you
Happy
think?
days.
What do you think the future of food
As an
is?
Australian. I know one other Australian person and they say happy days, and I think it's so charming.
Oh, I had no idea that was an Australian thing. Okay, well now I know.
I mean, I only know one other Australian, so I don't
There's not
know.
many of us. It's okay. Um, so, what do you think the future of the food industry is, or the restaurant industry?
I see it going two ways. I see drive-throughs and fast casual taking over the world. And maybe I don't think there's going to be like an in between anymore. I think it's going to be like a nice sit down fine dining experience, or it's going to be drive-through slash like those little those little diners where you like walk in, you pay, there's like four tables and nobody really sits there. It's just like if you want to, or like maybe you're sitting there to wait for your food. In Los Angeles, that's how everything has been moving. And of course, we're in post-pandemic season. So I don't know. I think it'll be drive-through fast casual and then eventually when New Earth materializes, it'll just be like communal uh communal dining where like there's lots of outdoor space and outdoor patios and like lots of like interactions and gatherings and like community hubs. But I think we have a ways to go before we get there.
That is a really almost cynical view of the world, Josie. I'm actually surprised it took that turn. Why do you think it'll be mostly fast food or fine dining? Is that what you see happening now, or do you think something will happen in between the A to B that will make that happen?
Well, I'm just looking at, I don't mean to be so cynical, but it's just what I'm observing from all my friends who had opened restaurants and what this pandemic has done to them. And also just kind of like now what people are getting used to. I like to look at people's, mm, I guess, like the psychology of people and what drives their decisions. And I think they've gotten so used to like not having to go out. It's either going to be like, I am going out and we're going to make an experience of it. So it's going to lean towards like fine dining, not necessarily like,
Like proper sit
you
down.
know, a proper sit down.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's either going to be that or it's going to be, no, I just need food. I just need sustenance and I'm ordering it to my door or I'm picking it up really quickly in my PJs and going back home. So I think that the psychological states of people are just forever changed, for a short period until we adapt into something new, and create something new and crave something new. Because once we start craving something, then we build infrastructure to support it. But as of right now, I think that that's kind of where we're going.
I mean, as a chef, when you're cooking food, if you're cooking food for, say, an Uber Eats delivery or something, compared to cooking food for someone who's maybe sitting a few meters away from you, does that make the experience very different for you as a chef?
For me, yeah. The only reason I love cooking food is because I love people. So if I can't see people, I'm not really fulfilled. Um, the best part of these pop-ups that I've been doing in London is putting out 5 or 10 courses, and after every course, I go out like I'm delivering my course and I'm sitting down with them and I'm telling them about my story of like why I'm feeding them this dish. And that is what I live for. Food is fun, but I could paint, I could do food, I could write, I could do any medium. But if I'm not talking to people, it's like,
Hmm.
why bother? A lot of chefs don't feel that way though. A lot of chefs are like, no, I just want to stay in the kitchen, fuck the people. I just want to be here like in the intensity cooking the food. And I get that too, because it is fun, but it would just feel lacking.
Well, I'm glad to hear that some chefs don't like people. I guess that's a weird thing to say, but there's a market for that, because of the era of your DoorDash, your Uber Eats and all of that, in which they can still create these dishes that they hopefully enjoy creating and still be servicing someone, even if it's for sustenance.
For sustenance, yes. You just remind me of this alien comic strip that I look at on Instagram, Nathan Pyle, Strange Planet. Everyone needs to go look at that Instagram page because it'll blow your mind.
Okay, I'll put it on the list. Now, for someone who wants to, say, embark their journey to being a chef, say, like you really enjoy cooking food at home, everyone you cook for is loving your food, and they're like, you should be a chef, like you should do it. What's something that you would say as your words of wisdom to someone else looking to take this as a profession?
What a beautiful question. I think the best thing to do would be get rid of everything you own and fit what you need in one suitcase and go travel to whatever chef you want your ass kicked by. And just basically go in with a lot of humility and be like, I really want to learn. And then just be ready to be really broke for a little bit. And maybe you don't have to be. Maybe you get to get paid too. You create your own reality. But I think that the willingness to really just like set aside what you think food should be to go in and understand another chef's brain would be the best thing to do. And then also you'll learn about organization, you'll learn the disciplines, you'll learn what true work ethic is because cooking at home is just not the same. It's not the same. as cooking in a restaurant. And I think observing one chef and how he or she executes really, really well, he, she, or they, how they execute really, really well will give you an understanding of how to own and operate a business. And if you even want to at that point, because sometimes you go in and you'll find like, oh, this is crazy. This is actually chaos. And maybe you'll be addicted to that chaos like me. But yeah, I think that's the move.
What do you think are like besides like the actual pressure for having to cook for people? What are like the main differences that that person could find from cooking from home to actually at a restaurant? That you would say this is the expectation. Like don't come in here thinking fairies. This is what reality is like.
Mm, I think that a rough wake up call for me is realizing that you are very, 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 very blessed to have a staff who actually gives a shit. Because most of the time, I think in this industry, luckily, I've been able to work with like very passionate chefs, but I've also worked in kitchens where people are just doing this because they can't do anything else. And you're a therapist just as much as you are a chef, just as much as you are a restaurant owner. Or you're not a therapist and you don't put up with people's shit and then you have high turnover because you don't create a bond with your staff. But it's hard to motivate people if you're not willing to be like this nurturing person and really take care of your team just because you're usually dealing with like ex-convicts or high school dropouts and people who are just lost in life and now they ended up in this kitchen. So you can either shape and mold them into what you need them to be and support and encourage them along the way, or you can just be ruthless because you want things your way and business is business and you separate business from personal. But it can be very draining to do that because when you're emotionally involved with your people, it's hard to keep that line between boss and friend if you are going to do that. There's a lot of components and there's a lot of difficult decisions you have to make where you do have to draw the line. You say, I can't deal with that, like I need you to be here at work. But it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of opportunity for developing people. And I think that to me, I personally love that, but I think that is one of the biggest struggles in the industry is employment.
Yeah, I
So
for sure.
everything else you can figure out.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's something that is really cool because it can be almost molded into any industry, especially when you're looking at having a personal relationship with someone who you work with, whether that's your boss or your colleague or maybe someone who is under you, I guess, in a structural format. So I think that's really cool. On a separate note, do you have any tips in the kitchen to make any food taste good? Do you have any life hacks in the kitchen that we can take away and be like, I'm going to up my cooking game with this few select tips?
Well, I will say, I'm just going to self plug patreon.com/vegan chef Josie. Subscribe for all my recipes and tips and tricks and hacks. But I I think that making sauces is basically a game changer. If you can learn how to make four really good vegan sauces and literally put that on anything that you make, whether it's a Buddha bowl with like your grains and like your seared vegetables or your roasted veggies or your veggie stir fry, and then you have a sauce that can go on literally anything. That's the key. And I think you just have to consider fat, flavor, and acidity, and obviously salt. But for example, opening up a can of corn, dump it into a blender with some coconut milk, with some lemon juice, with some salt, with some maple syrup, with some soy sauce. It's like, and maybe like some sriracha and then blend it. You have like this sweet, salty, like lightly spicy, creamy, like full flavored sauce. And then, you could even sometimes I blend kale into it and then it's green and I put that on my purple eggplant and it's like beautiful. Like it just, we can get so creative.
That just blew my mind. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to listen to this just to get that one part. I love a good sauce. I love a good sauce because it's so versatile. You can learn a few recipes and that takes ages, but then you learn a few sauces and then you can put that on anything.
Exactly.
Um,
Sauce is the boss.
sauce is the boss. I love that. Coming towards the end of the episode, do you have any?
No.
I know. Do you have any words of wisdom for us? And it could be something that is related to what we've talked about. So whatever it was, or it could be something completely random that you've been thinking about over the past day, week, month, or year. The platform is all yours, Josie.
Hmm. Well, I will say, I think I just recame back into my original message like recently, a few days ago, because for the last month I've just been cooking my ass off and being the psycho savage chef, which has been fun. But now that I got to this Airbnb and I've had a few days to just decompress and be alone, I realized like that I'm not actually fighting for veganism. I'm not fighting to convert people to go vegan. I think what's really important is for everyone to understand what the benefit of veganism actually is, on a global, like spiritual, physical, all the levels. Is it's removing this idea of separatism. It's removing this fragmented consciousness from our existence, meaning that some beings are worthy of living and some are not. Um, I think that we kind of assert our will on a day to day basis. We're always operating from our minds and what our anxieties are driving us to do, and what our desire for financial stability is driving us to do. And that's why being sweet or kind or compassionate is like a good feeling when we do receive it, because it's rare in today's society because we're always competing with the person ahead of us. I'm in the underground, the subway, and I'm watching the train come through. And the train comes by every 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes. But as soon as that train gets there, everyone is fighting to get onto the fucking train. And I'm seeing this and I'm like, wow, like we just really need to step into like our highest consciousness as humans and realize that when we allow ourselves to lose, we're actually winning because other people are also getting what they need and they're receiving the nutrients, the sustenance that they need on an energetic level. Um, so the practice of veganism is is really a way of life. It's not a diet. It's not what purchase. It's it's an embodiment practice, moment to moment. And I think that if we're not in practice of that, we're not actually vegan. So it's very it's been really frustrating actually thinking about this because it's hard to convey that message sometimes. And it's a hard ask of people, but I think we can do that and I think we can get there. And I think that will actually be, if we can commit to being that way for one day, the number of lives that you'll change at work, at home, um, at the store that you stop at before you get home. Like every person that you impact, that will just be like a catalytic ripple. So yeah, deleting separatism, that some people are worthy of goodness and that others aren't, based off of what we perceive. Oh, somebody's being a bitch. All right, well then I'm just gonna cut in front of you. It's like, no, regardless of what you're perceiving of that person, can you still extend your best self to that person?
Yeah,
So
I love that. I think it stems a lot of times from this thought, and a lot of people are like this, and we all have moments, and that's fine. And I think there's a practice that needs to be instilled, whether it's daily or weekly, monthly, I don't care what it is, but to really come back to your core, which, you know, it's beyond veganism. It's just kindness. It doesn't have to be this word vegan. It's just being kind and compassionate. We all have access to these abilities, almost like a superpower sometimes. And I guess I see where you're coming from, in terms of a lot of people sometimes are just all about me, 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 me. But really, when you step back and I think show a lot more kindness and compassion and willingness to help other people, a lot of people and the world at large will start to reward you in different ways. And that could be just you feeling a lot more compassion within yourself. So I think almost, I would say, you have to selfishly be unselfish. So you have to, it's for yourself, you know, you don't want to be, it's good to be kind and compassionate, but what that does to you internally, I think is a really beautiful bonus.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think that, yeah, I think there's levels to it for sure. And I am in full belief that everybody is already on their journey to being more compassionate. I think that that's literally all that life is. It's a journey within. It's a journey to learn how to express what is within. And I do believe that all humans are innately good. But I think that, you know, at any given point during the day, you can ask yourself, what am I seeking? And usually it's some sort of like stability, or like it's some sort of like, you are seeking something, and you need to realize that what you're seeking is impacting everyone around you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for letting me
Thank you for
just
that.
spill it out.
Thank you. No, thank you for bestowing that wisdom upon us. I do like to finish these episodes with a thank you, and really to thank you to you as not only as a chef, but as a human being. You're someone who has gone on to this show, Hell's Kitchen, and made what seems to be an incredible impact to help people and show that there is a way to eat plants that is yummy and tasty and satiating and all these beautiful things that we want as people when we consume sustenance. And that's something that's incredibly important in our journey to I guess relieving the pain of other beings, but also making choices in our day-to-day that reduces our carbon footprint. And so we need people like yourself who are showing amazing ways to make plants cool again. Like, it's really about showing
Make
up.
plants cool
I'll
again.
make a top saying that. It's my new slogan, make plants cool again.
I love that.
It's something that is hugely important, and it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's something that's vital in our pivot to shift to a plant-based or plant-centric society. So I thank you for all of that, and I thank you, Josie, for your time today to educate us on all things food. Hi there. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening the whole way through. This was an incredible conversation, and I thank you once again to Josie for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I definitely see a branch of your own restaurants coming out, and I hope to eat at them with some amazing plant-based goodness. If you did enjoy the show, the best thing you can do to help out is to share this with a friend, a family member, or a colleague, someone else who maybe loves food. And if you listen to this on Apple or iTunes or any other app that hosts reviews, please spare a minute or two to just click that 5-star icon. It helps us so much. And if you are on YouTube, of course, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. You can connect with Josie in multiple ways, and I've left all the ways you can do that in the show notes below, be it Instagram or Twitter. And while you're there, we are most active on Instagram at plant.paradigm. And I hope you have a lovely day. As I'm recording this, you might hear some birds in the background. I'm in a lovely van and just looking out towards a greenery, a park, and really connecting to nature. And like we talked about on the Monthly Paradigm a little while back, it's important to remind yourself why it is that you care for the environment. And if that is connecting your food and what you do in your lifestyle to the experiences you have, whether that's going for a hike, whether that's looking at birds flying by, do more of that, because it makes your diet and lifestyle more sustainable for you, because you know your why you eat more plants, why you recycle more, why you choose to bike or walk as opposed to drive everywhere. But that is my little end wisdom for you guys. I will see you on the next episode. And until then, stay happy, eat plants, peace.